morning and welcome to World Talks. As promised, we're going to talk about Polish politics this morning. So, Polish political scene is going for a turbulent time. Polish Parliament will hold its first session following the summer break this Wednesday, and there's much going on. Some speak of a potential problem within the ruling coalition. Meanwhile, the main opposition party, Law and Justice, faces issues of its own after the National Electoral Commission rejected its finance report, leading to the loss of funding. To discuss this and more, I am joined here this morning by Dr. Małgorzata Kaczorowska, political scientist, University of Warsaw. Good morning, delighted to have you with us.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
So
happy to be today.
Much appreciated. So let's start with this first session of Polish Parliament, which is going to take place tomorrow. What are some of the main issues on the agenda that the Parliament needs to tackle?
Well, this is a very good question. The holidays have traditionally been a time of overhaul of it in a chamber of Sejm, but this time something else have taken place also. First, I'd like to mention that some of the provisions of the rules of procedure of the Sejm amended in July come into force this autumn and in a few days. So tougher requirements for bills and slowing down the legislative process. These are part of the, we may say, since 9 years, revolutionary changes to the same rules of the procedure. So, for example, there will be an obligation for the applicant, for the members of the, for example, for the members of the parliament, to indicate the declared effects of the regulations of the bills. Second thing, a special platform is to be set up for the obligatory consultation on the drafts, where everyone will be able to have their say. These are the procedural procedures and some formal changes, but which will definitely slowing down the whole legislative procedure, which is something new comparing what was happening since 2015. The other things which we may expect, for sure, a continuation of the discussions on budget. The budget bill was introduced to the same, women's rights, that's for sure, issues of abortion, some discussion, some comments, the regulations for, and the legalization of the civil partnerships. That is what I'm expecting for next sitting.
Right, and the issue of abortion, much discussed, of course, not only in Poland, it is also a big topic in countries such as the US, right, recently. So, but I mean, it has shown that, I mean, it actually demonstrated that the Polish coalition, the ruling coalition, there are some divisions, right, present inside the coalition. We have the more socially conservative element, right, that the Polish People's Party would be sort of the more conservative, and then, of course, we have more liberal elements in the coalition. So what happens now? Because a lot of people were saying that this is telling, look, the abortion bill did not pass, so perhaps other things are also doomed to fail, right? Because the views are too divergent. So what is your take on that? Will we see some changes? Or
indeed, that's a very interesting issue, what you have mentioned. It is we must just stress once again and repeat, it is a multi-element and, in my opinion, very eclectic coalition. It has many internal, programmatic mostly, but sometimes, of course, some other issues which are going and contradictions, shortly speaking. It is marked by difficulties and internal conflicts, many conflicts we have observed. One of them, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately for the public opinion, but of course clearly showed the daylight, and the conflict on abortion is involving public discussion, because that is a constraint in a contradiction to what has been said during the electoral campaign. campaign. And that is also tackling, to some extent, women's rights. So women who has been voting in a massive number. So for them, abortion, their rights, their position, such discussion is, and that has been failed. So reaching the consensus between the partners within the governmental coalition, that was very important. But of course, two things which I want to also stress. Unfortunately, these conflicts, not only which are concerning, which are pointing to the, which are tackling the abortion, are showing the daylight, but also some other conflicts within the coalition, and we see some, and we feel and we hear some turbulences, criticism from one minister to another. It shouldn't be like that. Of course, conflicts are a natural element of the coexistence between the people, not only in the government, but they shouldn't be so much expressed. They should be resolved behind the closed doors, we may say, and in a silence of the cabinets. That is the role which is very typical of the British cabinet, British government, not Polish yet. I hope that, of course, during the time it will change, but in such difficult, so eclectic coalition, which embraces so many, as you have mentioned before, so many aspects, so many ideologies inside, starting from the left until to the liberalism. So that is very difficult to reach a consensus.
Right, and let me ask you about the opposition, because Law and Justice is facing issues of its own. However, I also wanted to talk to you about recent opinion polls. So how do these issues sort of play out against the opinion polls? Because there are issues, but also it seems that some are not losing support, some are losing support to our surprise. How is it all shaping up?
From the poll to the poll, there are not so deep differences between differences in support, of course, between Law and Justice and Civic Platform. But I would say both the biggest parties, the Civic Coalition, that's not a party, but with the biggest civic platform inside, and Law and Justice on the other side, they are doing actually not so much to outpace each other. Of course, we right now, that's the beginning of September. In Poland, it was the summer holidays. Summer holidays has been has already finished. I think some interesting processes will happen during the fall of the year, and we may see some changes or bigger changes. But on the other hand, I don't really think that the fall of the year may change something really crucially in the position of these the biggest actors on the party scene in Poland, just because both these political parties are using such opportunity, the situation of political polarization. That's very convenient for them to preserve their dominant position. Of course, in this situation, what we may observe is very good for these far-right groupings, far-right political parties, which are in confederation structure, and that situation also plays against so-called third way coalition. Of course, third way coalition has been very active, especially Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, one of the leaders of the third way coalitions, a leader of the PSL. Peasants Party was engaging himself in political disputes, especially blocking abortion. So that was also playing against these groupings. So that would be my comment for these polls, last polls. But of course, polarization is still one of the dominant factor which is influencing on these political parties. On the position of these political parties in Poland. Mm-hmm.
Of course. So let's talk about money. Money for Law and Justice, or the money that Law and Justice lacks at the moment. They appealed to the Supreme Court, the decision of the National Electoral Commission. So do you think that they will get some of this money back, so to speak? Will they manage to lose less, or will this opinion of the National Electoral Commission be upheld, meaning that Law and Justice will have to keep collecting funds?
We have to wait for the final decision of the Supreme Court. Of course, I do not know what will be the final decision of the Supreme Court, but the State Electoral Commission has decided to cut the money, and just because the financial report was not correct with what has been happening, what was happening during the electoral campaign, and that was against Polish law. Law and Justice started to save money and to collect them from members of the parliament, from the members of the European Parliament. For the members of the Polish Parliament, they are expected to get 1,000 zloty from each of the member of Law and Justice, who is a member of the Polish Parliament, and 5,000 zloty from members of the European Parliament who are representing Law and Justice in this structure. After the first days of these collecting money, the President of Law and Justice has said that he is satisfied by the collection, the number of those who reacted positively for his appeal. But that will be obligatory for the members of the Law and Justice. Of course, there is unofficially concern whether it's okay or not okay, but officially we cannot hear any criticism from the members of Law and Justice, because some people who were connected to some extent, like Mr. Mastalerek, were criticizing that, and he said that Law and Justice should save the money for tougher times, as normal people do when they're forecasting some turbulences. So we will see what will happen, but for sure it will be complication for coming presidential campaign. It costs, simply speaking.
That's right. But on the other hand, exciting times ahead of us, right? Since we cannot foresee what's going to happen. Dr. Małgorzata Kaczorowska, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, and good day for all of you. Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World. News Bulletin coming up next.